Just before we get into this video, guys, if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, the links are here. And if you also want to support me on Patreon as well and help out my channel, that would be absolutely awesome as well. But let's get on with the video. Hey guys, it is Wingy here and welcome to my 2-year anniversary Q&A. So, I mean, you guys know what this is. Thank you for everybody who has suggested, thank you to everybody who has asked a question, and I'm just going to dive straight into it. However, just before I do, thank you to absolutely every single one of you who has been here, whether it's been from day one or yesterday. I appreciate you all, so thank you very much. Don't suppose you could rattle off your favourite episodes from every season/series of Doctor Who thus far? Probably for me, the Daleks, even though the movie version's better, Dalek Invasion of Earth, 10th Planet, Power of the Daleks, Mind Robber, I feel like that's season 5, I could be wrong, The Invasion, Spearhead from Space, Terror of the Autons, Sea Devils, Carnival of Monsters, Death to the Daleks, Genesis of the Daleks, The Android Invasion, The Hand of Fear, The Invasion of Time, Pirate Planet, City of Death, Legopolis, Earthshock, Snake Dance, Caves of Androzani, Vengeance on Varos, well, it's Trial of a Time Lord, but the Terror of the Vervoid section. Fucking hate season 24, but I'll go with skip. Remembrance of the Daleks, Battlefield. I know a lot of people like Fenric, but I really like Battlefield, TV movie obviously. Empty Child, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, Utopia, Silence of the Library, Forest of the Dead, The 11th Hour, The Impossible Astronaut / Day of the Moon, Cold War, Into the Dalek, Heaven Sent. I mean, I don't really like the Doctor Falls, but World Nothing Time. And then kablam. Hi, I'm the dick who suggested Paradise Towers on Patreon. Cheers, thank you. If you could have one missing episode found, which one would it be? I'd really love to see Dalek Master Plan. If you could have any actor play the Doctor, who would it be? I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is just fucking amazing, isn't he? What would you think of Robert Carlyle being the Doctor? Top actor, absolutely top actor. I don't necessarily know if he could play the Doctor. I'd prefer to see him as the Master personally. Then again, I would be Cumberbatch as well, but yeah, he'd be a good shout. Have you listened to any Big Finish? If you have, which are your favourites? I don't really listen to as much Big Finish as I would like, unfortunately. My favourite is Spare Parts, for fairly obvious reasons if you've been watching this channel over the past 2 years. Do you think Paul McGann should have had a spin-off series? I don't know about a spin-off series, but it could have been cool. It would have been nice. Maybe it would have been a bit confusing to have the current Doctor, whoever that may be, whenever they decided to do it, whether it was Matt Smith, Capaldi, or now Jodie Whittaker, but to have that alongside of it would have been a bit weird. But Paul McGann definitely deserved a series. Like, from what we have seen of him on TV and the audios that I have listened to, he's a very, very, very good Doctor. It's just a shame that most people tend to forget about him because there's 2 bits of actual visual stuff with Paul McGann. If you were the Doctor, what would you wear? Now, funny you ask this, because I have genuinely thought about this, and I know it's really, really sad. However, in terms of what I would actually wear, I don't really know. But there's one item of clothing that I actually own that I would love to wear if I was the Doctor. I'll put a picture of it in now. So this coat is very Captain Jack, but slightly different. But I just want a costume built around that. I think the Doctor needs to have some sort of silhouette and some type of thing that stands out, and I think that would be my thing. Obviously, there'd be little bits and pieces here and there, but for me, that coat and then whatever designers would want to do. Have you ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender? Do you know what? I never have. It was on when I was a kid, and obviously I'm not going to watch the terrible movie, but I never actually watched it as a kid. Maybe I should go back and check it out. How did you meet your girlfriend? Would you actually believe it? Now, this goes to show for anybody out there who's thinking, oh, such as myself, I'm a bit of a nerd, I like all this nerdy stuff, I'm not that confident, I'm never going to meet anybody. Well, turns out you can, because I met my girlfriend at Warp, a Doctor Who convention. The reason why? She watched my channel. That was interesting. And we're still together now, after Warp. It's such a bizarre story, but it's a cool one at the same time. Who is your favourite supporting character from Life on Mars? Just started getting into it from your video and bloody loved it. Well, I'm glad that you saw my video and you decided to watch it, because it is a truly great series of television. In terms of supporting character, can I say Gene Hunt? Because technically he's not the main character. I know what you mean. I'm guessing you don't mean Gene, but my favourite character in both Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes is in fact Gene Hunt. In terms of the other characters, I really like Ray. What are your political views? To be quite honest, I'm not an overly political person. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily left, I'm necessarily right. If anything, I agree with points of view from both sides. I have my own opinions, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they're strong or anything. I try to be as neutral as possible, you know. I like to see both sides of every single argument. I'm not one of those people that will just jump on something and think, well, hang on, this doesn't match my point of view, therefore it should be silenced or anything like that. I like debate and I like discussions and I like differing points of view. So in terms of that, probably centrist based on what I've described. What is your least favourite Doctor Who story? Sorry if you've already answered this before, I haven't seen everything from you yet. It's Hellbent. Wait until you see that video. My question to you is, what was the first comic book / graphic novel you ever read? From memory, it might be wrong, but from what I can remember as a kid, it was the Ultimate Spider-Man series. What do you think of Christopher Reeve as Superman and Terrence Stamp as General Zod? I've got to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of those original Superman movies. For the time, they are what they are, but they're incredibly cringy and I find them really difficult to watch. I think for the time, they're as good as they can be in those respective roles. But overall, I'm not a fan, to be honest. What do you think of the 13th Doctor? Now, I've got to be honest, I went in with an open mind, like I do with every new Doctor, like I do with every new series. Obviously, I had my reservations and my doubts. Some people assumed it was due to sexism, which is absolute bollocks. Like with every Doctor, I tried to give Jodie Whittaker a fair crack of the whip. My personal opinion is, I haven't had that moment yet where I'm just like, yeah, that's the Doctor. Now, whether or not that's the writing, I don't know, but Jodie's character is so inconsistent. One episode she's saying, oh, I love a conspiracy. Next week she's like, I hate conspiracies. And you can say, oh, rule 1, the Doctor lies. That's just lazy writing, that's just bullshit. She's inconsistently written, her performance is all over the place. I don't really know who this Doctor is yet. It's kind of like we're still in the post-regeneration trauma. She's had almost as many episodes as Christopher Eccleston had in his entire run, and yet you instantly felt like he was the Doctor. Even in weaker episodes, every single Doctor has had that moment, maybe not straight away, but within the first couple of episodes where you think, yeah, that's the Doctor. We're 11 episodes in and I still don't feel it. Have you ever seen Smallville? If so, are you a fan? I haven't seen Smallville, no, so I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a fan. In fact, I wouldn't say I'm a fan because I haven't seen it and therefore I can't be a fan. However, I have seen clips and I have seen some of the costumes and they're fucking terrible. But one day I may give it a go, I don't know. Will you revisit Doctor Who in the future when there is a new showrunner? Yeah, I suppose so. I think the biggest problem at the minute, I know I just said stuff about Jodie, but the biggest problem is Chris Chibnall. The weakest episodes of Series 11 were written by him, so if we can get rid of him... to be honest, if we got in a different writer, I would give Jodie another chance if she stayed on. But as things stand, like, I'm just not interested. I just don't care about this latest iteration of the show. It's been coming for a few years now. I've explained it in another video properly. I will definitely come back to Doctor Who at some point. I definitely think it needs a rest though, for 5 or 10 years, something like that. What's your end of year sub goal? Oh, for this year? I've no idea. I'd like to hit 10k. We'll see if that's possible. I know a few people have hit that. Well, Ace Creeper hit that recently, so shout out George. And hopefully I can do that too. What is your favourite sitcom? For the record, the right answer is Red Dwarf. I do love Red Dwarf, but for me it's Only Fools and Horses. I've always loved that show. If you could make a TV show, what would it be about and why? Do you know what? I've never actually given that much thought. The honest answer is I would do a remake of Blake 7. I know that's kind of like a cop-out answer because it's remaking something that already existed and it's not like an original idea. That is something that I'm surprised hasn't happened yet, and it was a bloody good show and it just seems like something that the BBC would have revamped at some point. What is the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to you? I'm not going to tell you the details, but let's just say I was spiked in a club and it didn't end well. What's your opinion on Pokemon Let's Go? I've not actually played it yet. I've seen walkthroughs of it and what the gameplay's like. It looks cool, but it seems like a really simplistic version of a Pokemon game, which I'm not too keen on. Then you said as well, Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm so looking forward to that, especially because the region is based off of the UK. I wonder how they're going to do it. Are they going to go stereotypical English, or are they going to go actually genuine Britain, where it's full of drugs and booze culture and fuck you, you cunts, and all that sort of stuff? If there's not a Pokemon based off a kebab, I'm going to be pissed off. And thoughts on Detective Pikachu? It looks fucking mint. I do not understand how a movie like that has no right to work, it looks like it absolutely fucking works. I can't wait for that. What's your opinion on Spider-Man PS4? Annoyingly, I haven't played it yet. I don't actually have a PS4, which is quite depressing. However, at work we do have a PS4, so I might buy the game just to play it on my lunch break. That'd be pretty cool. Favourite Arctic Monkeys song? Oh, do you know, there's quite a few. I've got to admit, I do really like Snap Out of It from the AM album. I remember listening to that a lot, and I really like that album as a whole, actually. I know it's quite an unpopular album for a lot of people, but I really loved it. Thoughts on Enemy of the World? Great story. I love seeing Patrick Troughton play a good guy and a bad guy. He does it so well. What are your thoughts on the upcoming Macra Terror animation? Do you know what? I am looking forward to it, but at the same time I am thinking to myself, one, why the fuck is it in colour? And two, why the Macra Terror? Surely there are other stories that they could have prioritised. Fury from the Deep being the main one for me in terms of the Troughton era. I mean, I mentioned Dalek Master Plan before. Why didn't they do that one? I don't know. I'm excited for it, but I'm sort of just like, why has this happened now? Do you think certain Big Finish stories should be animated, given that they've already got the voices recorded, as well as some being fucking incredible? I do and I don't. It's one of those things where audio is very different, and the way that people will talk and act is different because it is purely audio. If you add visuals to that, it might ruin the story somewhat, or it might weaken the story somewhat, especially because, as well, if you've listened to a certain story and then you see it visualized and it's not how you pictured it, it can be disappointing. When it comes to missing stories, they were made to be visual things. They were made to be watched. It's a nice idea, and I would like to see it with certain stories, but I'm kind of cautious with that one. What are your thoughts on Torchwood Miracle Day? Do you know, I actually really like it. I know a lot of people don't. It's not the best series of Torchwood, and especially after Children of Earth, it is a slight disappointment, and I'm kind of gutted that we didn't get to see where it went after. Who are your top 5 rappers of all time? Ooh, okay, so Biggie, this is in no particular order, by the way. Biggie, Nas, Eminem, Big Pun. Do you know what? I'm going to have to say Royce da 5'9", because I really fucking love him. How tall are you? Apparently, to my girlfriend, not tall enough, so we'll leave it at that. I'm not a dwarf, though. People seem to think that I'm tiny. I'm not. Worst movie that you've ever seen? Have you seen a Neil Breen film? Pick one. It's that. However, they're also fucking brilliant at the same time. I'm gonna have to do a video on Neil Breen and Tommy Wiseau at some point. Sea Devils or Silurians, and why? I would say Sea Devils, purely because that is my favourite Third Doctor story. I just love them, and I think the design is better too. Do you think a 2-part story where Ice Warriors are fighting Sontarans would be better than Daleks versus Cybermen? I don't particularly mind who's fighting who. The thing that I take issue with Doomsday was the fact that it was very one-sided, so if they get the balance right and it's a fair fight and it's an equal fight, then it's going to be glorious. It doesn't really matter who the two oppositions are, but it sounds like a cool idea. What's scarier, space or the sea? I would say space, purely because I know that there's plenty of the seas and the oceans that we haven't discovered yet, and there's going to be loads of creatures and stuff that we can't even imagine, but the sea is on just this planet, whereas space is so vast and there's so much there. Like, we don't know what is out there at all. It's nice to think, and I'm sure that there are planets like this. I'm sure there is another Wingy out there on a faraway planet in a faraway galaxy. I don't know, it's just weird to think about. I'd love to explore space properly. I doubt I ever will in my lifetime, but I'd say space is the scarier one. There's just more to it. Favourite food right now? Honestly, this is going to be proper cheesy to some people, but it's my girlfriend's cooking. Like, she's a really good cook, and she does this amazing pasta bake. I cannot praise this pasta bake enough. It is so fucking good. Becky, if you're watching, I want another fucking pasta bake, please. What would be your perfect MCU Phase 4 after Endgame? More good movies. I don't know about specific characters or, you know, who I want to see appear. I definitely want to see an X-Men against Avengers movie at some point. I want to see Deadpool in there at some point, but whether that's Phase 4 or 5 later on, who knows? I don't know. But as long as I see that at some point, I'm honestly not that bothered. Would you reconsider watching Resolution, as you mentioned in your best Dalek story that you liked having the Dalek outside of his tank in Resurrection of the Daleks, and that was a feature of this episode? If nothing else, you could compare each instance to say which was done better and why. Would I reconsider watching Resolution? I don't know, to be honest. I've seen clips of Resolution, and that was kind of enough for me. My mate Dan sort of said, just don't fucking bother watching it, and he actually really liked Series 11, well, more than I did anyway. I'd rather just sort of leave it at this point. I'm just sort of like, yep, this just isn't for me anymore. I can just walk away. I'm not going to sit through it and just continually be disappointed like I have been for a fair few years now. On the whole, not always. Blondes or brunettes? Do you know, if I'm being totally honest, I never have actually had a preference on hair colour. It's all about the person, so that's what I'm more bothered about. But if I had to pick, redheads. Can you guess why? Bums or boobs? Oh, I do love a bum. Favourite genre of film? Either comedy or science fiction. Is superhero a genre? It probably is, isn't it? Yeah, one of them. Natalie Portman or Keira Knightley? What's the difference? They're the same person. Do you know what, actually? I really like Natalie Portman after she did that rap for... Was it The Lonely Island or Saturday Night Live? Something like that. What's your favourite album? Ooh, I would say... It's a controversial choice, but I would say Dig Out Your Soul by Oasis. Best movie that you have seen recently? One film that I've seen recently that I really enjoyed was Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. I thought that was a fucking incredible movie. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Go and check it out. Dogs or cats? I am not a massive fan of cats, so I'm going to have to go with dogs. Have you read Scratchman by Tom Baker? No, not yet. I am well aware of the story, though, because there was a feature of it in Doctor Who magazine quite a few years ago. I need to find that copy of my magazine, because it was one of my favourite issues of that. I am planning on reading it at some point. I can't wait to read it. It's going to be good, hopefully. I was wondering what you thought about Arrow ending after Season 8. As I know you've stopped watching Arrowverse shows after their previous seasons, and I don't blame you. Yeah. It is sad. I did meet Stephen Amell, and I've met, of course, John Barrowman, who was in Arrow as well. And they're really great guys, and the show itself started out great, but it just went downhill. I think as soon as you move the focus away from what the show should be about, then you risk just fucking up everything, because people get invested in the show for one reason or a particular reason, and if you suddenly get rid of that reason, why would those same people be interested? Sure, you might attract new people, but what's the point? You may as well just build on what you already have. And it's not just Arrow, it's The Flash that's done it. Legends to a degree has done it as well, and I just don't care about those shows anymore. So I think the main thing that I will say is I feel bad because I wish I still cared. Were you aware that Human Nature and Family of Blood from Series 3 was an adaptation of a novel from 1995, both by Paul Cornell? Yes, I was. I need to pick up a copy of the book because I'm curious to see the 7th Doctor in that story. Are you familiar with the Virgin New Adventures novel range from 1991 to 1997? Yes, I am. Long Barrow is one of my favourite Doctor Who stories that isn't part of the TV show. It's really interesting. When was the first time you met Tom Baker and what was it like? I was 11 years old, I think. It was 2006 in November at the NEC in Birmingham. I remember this like it was yesterday. It was so cool. I was second in line. At this point, I'd only seen a handful of classic Doctor Who stories. I think I'd only seen about maybe 7 or 8 Tom stories in total, and I just loved it. At that point, I was just like, I love the classic series more than I love the new series. That's how good the classic series is. The experience of meeting my childhood hero as a child, and obviously I met him again recently. It was amazing. You never really forget things like that. I was dressed up as Tom as well. The wig that you see when I do Tom Baker skits in videos from time to time, which I need to do more of actually, I was wearing that, and that wig is fucking huge on me now. Imagine what it was like back then. Would you rather be bitten by, and therefore become, a vampire or a werewolf, gaining their associated powers, abilities and weaknesses? I'd prefer to be a vampire. I suppose it's because I'm pale and struggle to go out in the sun anyway that I just don't think that things would have changed. Would you ever like to see classic Who episodes remade, and if so, which ones? I don't know about remade. I think a lot of them, they're perfect as they are, even with their imperfections. So there's certain stories where you just think, oh my god, the special effects in this is fucking terrible. However, at the same time, that's what makes it so good. It's the fact that the story is so good that you can forget and ignore the shitty looking sets and the monsters, and the fact that everything is overlit, the fact that the performances sometimes might be a bit hammy. Things like that. I wouldn't want to see them remade, to be honest. I think they're perfect as they are. You've named the best story for each Doctor, so my question is your least favourite episode for each Doctor. I mean, I was planning on doing this as a video at some point, but I can just quickly list it off here now. Nobody will notice, surely. For Hartnell, the Web Planet. For Troughton, I can't actually think of a Troughton story that I properly dislike off the top of my head. Maybe the Quarks, something like that, or the Crotons. For Pertwee, maybe Monster of Peladon. I'm not a massive fan of that one. For Tom, it's The Leisure Hive or Underworld. They're fucking terrible. Peter Davison, it's Warriors of the Deep. Colin, it's Time in the Rani. No, it's not. That's Sylvester. Well, for Sylvester, it'll be Time in the Rani, but for Colin, we'll go with Time Lash. Yeah, that's why I got confused with Time. We'll go with Time Lash. For McGann, the movie. For Eccleston, I would say The Long Game. For Tennant, I really don't like New Earth or The Idiot's Lantern, to be honest. For Matt, it's The Wedding of River Song. Can't fucking stand that episode. Capaldi, Take a Guess. And for Jodie, maybe The Ghost Monument, but then again, Arachnids in the UK was fucking shit. Would you rather be Ginger or well known on YouTube but have no hair? So it's either be myself or be Matthew Santoro. I would still have my hair. I love being Ginger. I love having hair. So I'd have to pick that one. What's your thoughts on Captain Marvel? The character is cool in the comics, or at least she was until the last few years. In terms of the movie, haven't actually seen it yet. Have you seen what the Dalek looks like from Resolution? I have. It's fucking terrible. I know it's supposed to be a Dalek that is rebuilding itself, but it's a fucking shit design. Cheese or chess? I'll go with cheese. Have you seen other sci-fi shows? Yes, I have seen other sci-fi shows. I mean, Blake 7 is one that I mentioned. Does Life on Mars count as sci-fi? I suppose it kind of does, but I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, which is really embarrassing, but I do love me a bit of sci-fi. Give me spaceships and shit blowing up in space. I love it. Tetris or a pound coin? There is no context to this question, but you must answer. Take a pound coin. Money, innit? When Jodie decides to leave the show on a purely superficial basis, i.e. not taking individual particular actors into account, do you feel it would be better / least damaging to have the 14th Doctor be cast as a male or continue with a female for at least one more incarnation in a row? My personal belief, I don't think that the series will carry on to the point where Jodie will regenerate. I think it'll just get axed. That's what I honestly believe, and that's what I honestly think should have happened for a fair few years, like I keep saying. Not that I didn't like Capaldi, but the show itself needed to just go away for a bit. To actually answer the question that you've put forward here, though, it's a bit of a catch-22 in it. Because on the one hand, you can cast a bloke again, and even if that person is someone like a Benedict Cumberbatch, where nobody can argue with that casting choice, because he's a fucking quality actor, a massive name, and is quirky and eccentric and could just nail that part. But you would get people saying, well, this is sexist. Or you would get people jumping on it saying, clearly Jodie failed because she's a woman, so they had to go back to a man again. So they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. So I don't really know what the BBC would do. I would assume they go with another woman, just because it'll be like, no, it's not because Jodie didn't work out, it's because, you know, we cast another woman because the Doctor's a woman now. But I think just get whoever is best for the role. Take gender out of it, take the media shitstorm out of it, take social justice warriors and whoever out the equation, just cast whoever is best for that fucking role. I don't give a shit what you have in between your legs. I don't give a shit what skin colour you are. I don't care where you stick your genitals or what you do with other people's genitals, regardless of what those genitals are. I don't give a fuck. So get on with it, cast whoever's best, write a good fucking show, and shut the fuck up. That's all I care about. Have you ever watched Breaking Bad? Because if you haven't, you're seriously missing out. It is one of the greatest shows ever made, and nothing will ever be better than it. No, I haven't seen Breaking Bad. I have this weird thing, right, where if a show gets really popular, I just don't watch it, because I'm just like, well, the hype is massive around it. I'm going to check it out, but if I do, I'm just going to be disappointed, because it'll never live up to those expectations that people are telling me. Breaking Bad's one of them. Game of Thrones is one of them. Quite a few series where I'm just like, yeah, I'm fucking that off, just because it's too popular and I won't like it purely because it's never going to meet my expectations. It's a weird mentality. I'm not denying that, but that is honestly why. I am fucking strange. Which is your favourite X-Men film aside from Logan? Does Deadpool count? Because if not, Deadpool 2. But if that doesn't count either, then I'm going to have to say Days of Future Past. I did really like that one a lot. If you were the Doctor, what would you be like? Myself, a fucking knobhead. What is your favourite book? I really like the Noughts and Crosses series by Mallory Blackman. There's some really, really good books. I think there's 4 in that series. They're great. Have you seen the BBC series Hustle? And if not, you should watch it. But if you have, what do you think about it? I haven't seen it. I've seen trailers for it though, I think. I wanted to check it out, but I didn't for some reason, so I'll probably get around to that at some point. Nerdaholics here just put, when do you want to do that podcast then? Well, whenever the podcast happens again, probably. It's been a while. Oops. What do you think of Revenge of the Cybermen? It tends to get a bad rap, but I personally think it is an underrated gem, and obviously Harry Sullivan is an imbecile. I tell you what, I do not mind Revenge of the Cybermen. It's not the best Cyberman story ever. It's not the best Tom story ever, but it's one of them where when I'm watching it, I enjoy it for what it is, but it's not something that I will actively go out and want to watch again. If I just randomly put it on, it's because I randomly put it on, not because I genuinely want to watch it. Favourite Doctor Who season opener of all time? For me, it's Spearhead. I can't argue with Spearhead, but I also really love the 11th Hour, so one of those two. Torchwood or Sarah Jane Adventures, which is better? I'm gonna have to go with Torchwood overall, but Sarah Jane Adventures is pretty good. Would you like Captain Jack to return to Doctor Who, or on Big Finish to meet other Doctors apart from the 9th and 10th? Which do you think he'll get on best with? I'd love to see Captain Jack back. He's a great character, but at the same time, I do want to see more Torchwood. So if I had that option, like new series of Torchwood, Jack back in Doctor Who, I'd go with Torchwood. I know that's not what you asked, but I'm just saying. And in terms of Big Finish meeting other Doctors, it could be cool. Possibly room for it to happen as well, because Jack was stranded on Earth from, what, the Victorian era? Something like that, until the modern day. I'd really like to see him with Capaldi, actually, just because he would have none of his shit. More so than Eccleston and Tennant did. So that could be interesting. Did you like Horrible Histories? In terms of the series, no, but I did have the books, and I did get the magazine series where you got like different bits and pieces with it each week. They were a lot of fun. Which do you prefer, Only Fools and Horses, the chandelier scene, or the bar fall scene? I've got to admit, I love them both, but I'd probably edge it to the chandelier. If your favourite actor or actress was to appear in Doctor Who, what role would you want them to have? Well, my favourite actor is Gary Oldman, and I'd love to see him as the Doctor. Or the Master, actually. Either of them. Do you have a favourite out of the missing episodes, including the ones that have been reanimated? That's an interesting question, because I did say Dalek Master Plan I'd love to see back. But I'm also really curious to see Evil of the Daleks as well, or Fury from the Deep. One of those two. They're probably my favourite. But Dalek Master Plan, I just think because it's so epic, that's the one I'd like to see animated. But Evil of the Daleks and Fury from the Deep, brilliant stories. Are there any historical events you think Doctor Who should cover in the future? It all depends. I'd like to see the Titanic done, but properly. I'm fascinated with the Titanic, and when I saw that the Titanic had crashed through the Doctor's TARDIS at the end of Last of the Time Lords, I was so excited. But then I found out it was like in space, and I was like, oh, that's shit. They did it a few years later as well with the Orient Express. Why is there a space train? Just have it on the actual fucking train. Have it on the actual Titanic. It's not that hard. Even though Voyage of the Damned is very, very good. And Mummy on the Orient Express is also very good. But have them on the actual things. If the Doctors were at war with each other, who would win? The War Doctor. He's used to it. Although then again, the 7th Doctor is a massive manipulator. Be an interesting story. You also said here, I also have questions that might work as their own video. And you're right. I've got a list somewhere and 2 of these are already on it. So I will definitely get round to that at some point. In The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren says that Darth Vader is his grandfather, but he's Han Solo's son, so that means Luke is his uncle, so Darth Vader is his great-uncle. Now, what do you think of that? But Leia's his daughter. You've confused me there. Who would you rather get in a fight, Colin Baker or Peter Capaldi? In terms of now, Colin. Back in the day, probably still Colin, actually. Favourite car? Ford Capri. Fucking love the thing. Can you give me a shout-out, please? Well, Vo for VOAF. Shout out to you. Which Doctor Who companion would you be and why? Do you know what? I'd be K9 just to see what it's like to be a computerized robot that just knows everything. Do you have a job other than YouTube? Yes, I do. However, because of the nature of my work, it is in social media. I like to keep my work life and my social media, like YouTube life, separate. Apart from that, I'm not really going to go too much deeper into it. Like I say, I want to keep both of them separate, so yeah. Thoughts on K9 and Company? It's fucking shit. It's really not good. Where did Wingy come from? As in the name or myself? In terms of the name, it was given to me as a joke for being a wingman on a night out, which I obviously wasn't. But it went from wingman to Wingy. Then when it came to making the channel, boom. In terms of literally where did I come from, just outside of Manchester in Stockport. What were your aspirations for a career in your youth, like dream job? Honestly, I never really knew. I was one of those people who sort of fluttered in between different ideas, like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. Maybe I should try that. I never really knew. It wasn't until I did an apprenticeship in social media and digital marketing and whatnot, that's when I realised that, oh, I want to do something like that. What if there was an episode where a Dalek and a Cyberman get married and the Doctor murders them with a lightsaber, then Spock kills Jodie Whittaker with a sonic screwdriver, then she regenerates into you, then you kill Spock for Star Trek copying Doctor Who? What? Do you think you'll do this? What do you think of the idea? And do you think Star Trek copied Doctor Who? It's a batshit crazy idea. I fucking love the idea. And technically, Star Trek did come first, but I suppose in science fiction, things copy each other anyway, regardless of what came first. So I'm sure there's elements of Doctor Who that are borrowed. Well, I know for a fact there are elements of Doctor Who that have been borrowed from other things, and I imagine there's elements of Doctor Who that Star Trek borrowed as well, and other franchises. You'd be surprised, so who knows?